Fury at Bobbejaanland is one of the most unique coasters in the world. This Gerstlauer creation is the only coaster in the world where riders can vote whether they'd like to experience the layout going forwards or backwards. This feature adds a lot of fun and re-ride value to the experience. But is this one of the best coasters in the Benelux? Find out in this review of Fury. I want to start off by saying that I previously reviewed this coaster back in 2020. However, I wanted to update this review for two reasons. One, my videos were much less refined back then. I don't think that review included a single video clip of Fury, just some still images of the ride. Two, I only got a few rides on Fury back in 2019 due to crowds. On my most recent visit, I was able to experience this coaster 7 times, so I now have a much better feel for what this coaster can offer depending on your seating and direction. Fury opened in 2019 as part of an all-new Land of Legends area. This area had 4 attractions, some old and some new themed elements. Fury is the representation of fire. One of the older rides assimilated into the area was Typhoon, one of the first Gerstlauer Eurofighters. Fury is an Infinity coaster, which is a newer generation model from Gerstlauer that can do a lot of the same stuff a Eurofighter can, and then some. This ride looks fantastic both when you're right on top of it in the queue line and from a distance across the park's lagoon. The ride also has some light theming. There are some rock statues adjacent to some valleys, although you barely notice them on ride due to how fast you're traveling. They're most prominent from the queue line. Then you also have a station in the style of a medieval castle. Fury is Bobbejaanland's most popular ride, and expect to have to wait a while for this coaster. This ride does not have good capacity to begin with. It can run up to 2 trains, but each seats a maximum of 12 riders across 3 rows of 4. Both my visits to this park have been on summer weekdays. In my first visit, the coaster was running 2 trains, and it had a full queue line, so the line took approximately 1 hour. And people ran here right after opening, so there wasn't a time you could ride it as a walk-on. In my return visit this year, Fury is running just 1 train, which sadly is a practice Parques Reunidos parks are notorious for. Fury's queue line was probably 1/3 to 1/2 full, but I figured that could still take 30 to 45 minutes given the reduced capacity. Dispatches were pretty fast thanks to the simple restraints, but there was only so much the staff could do with only 1 train in use. Therefore, I sprung for a Speedy Pass, which allowed me to basically board every other train. Speedy Pass was just added to Bobbejaanland in 2022, so Fury was designed without this skip the line pass in mind. So it's pretty comical to see where you have to go. You go through the exit, then you have this separate ramp that goes through a former window on the back side of the station, so definitely watch your step here because it wasn't meant to be a doorway. If you wait in the main queue, you have 2 options when you reach the station. You have a forwards only side and a voting side. Fury alternates trains in each mode. If you use Speedy Pass, you can request which train you'd like to board. And I honestly have a gripe with this overall setup. I wish it was just forwards and backwards only. While the voting feature is a cool gimmick and a highly marketable addition, it's annoying when you can't get the ride you desire, especially if you had to wait a long time. So how does this voting feature work? After you sit down, you have 2 arrows on the restraint, one for forwards and one for backwards. You have the option to press one of these buttons before the train dispatches, and which way you go is determined by majority rules. In the event of a tie, I believe the computer randomly picks which way you go. I notice not everyone votes. Not sure if it's because of indifference or not knowing you can influence the ride. But I always try to encourage people to go backwards because it's a more unique and thrilling option. As for the best seat, I think the back of the train is the best spot to sit. So you want to be in row 3 when the ride goes forwards and row 1 when the coaster goes backwards. Riders are restrained by a snug but comfortable lap bar. These restraints can be found on several other Gerstlauer Infinity coasters, and I like them. They grant your upper body complete freedom to experience the forces, and it eliminates any chance of head banging. Although that probably wouldn't be much of an issue anyway because Fury is a mostly smooth coaster. Once dispatched, you roll forwards onto a turntable. You then pause for a second. Now it's time for the moment of truth if you are on the voting train. Will you go forwards or will you go backwards? Since there's no signal or feedback as you leave the station, you don't know which direction you're going to go until the turntable moves. If you turn counterclockwise, you're going backwards. If you turn clockwise, you're going forwards. Once you're lined up with the launch track, you pause for a few seconds before starting the swing launch sequence. Launch 1 is pretty weak. You only get a modest acceleration. You then travel a short distance up the top hat, not enough to get any weightlessness, and then you fall backwards. Launch 2 is where things get exciting. The LSMs rapidly accelerate you. If you're on the forward side, don't be surprised if your body folds over the restraint from the sudden power, because this is the one part of the ride where you will be going in reverse. You then blast up a spike. The element goes beyond vertical, so you start to invert towards the top. This results in some epic hang time throughout the train. Launch 3 isn't as sudden as the prior one, but it still has some serious oomph to it. And if you're going backwards now, this is the launch that will toss your upper body over the restraint. This launch allows you to reach your max speed of 66 miles per hour or 107 kilometers per hour. You then zoom up a 141 foot or 43 meter tall top hat. If you're going forwards, you get a great view of the rest of the park. If you're going backwards, you get a neat view of Fury's layout from the air. But whatever way you face, you're going to get some great airtime and laterals. In the front, you get good sustained ejector over the top, and then some floater on the descent. In the back, you get sustained ejector for the entire element. Then everyone gets strong laterals in the descent, but they're extra intense in the back as you're whipped downwards. The pullout has some decent positive Gs, but it is the one spot on the ride that has a noticeable shuffle to it. Again, nothing too bad, but you will feel it. Next is a giant 0G winder. The entry into the element has this weird lateral kink to it, so you're thrown sideways. Then you get some hang time. You get a little hang time up front, and more in the back. Then the resultant pullout delivers some good positives. You then shoot upwards and navigate a dive drop. You get a little floater airtime at the apex. Then everyone gets wild laterals on the drop as your body is thrown sideways. Next is the second and final inversion, an inclined loop. Some call it a corkscrew, others call it a variant on a vertical loop, and I think it rides more like the latter. You get some strong positive Gs entering the element. Then you slow down the top, giving a pinch of hang time. I love when rides can rapidly alternate forces like this. You then head up another spike. Like the first one, this one goes beyond vertical, so it'll feel like you're upside down when you stall. This results in another dose of incredible hang time. You then fall backwards and smoothly decelerate to a stop. You then land on a turntable and rotate 90 degrees back towards the station. This ends the 2,000 foot or 600 meter long coaster. So what would I rate Fury? I would give this coaster an 8.5 out of 10. This is a really neat ride that offers a fun blitz of forces. 2 of the launches are quite punchy, the last 2 to be specific. Then you have a nice mix of airtime moments, crazy laterals, some forceful valleys, and incredible hang time. It is such a varied coaster, and it's a real treat to experience all these forces with just a lap bar. And the fact you can try this layout both forwards and backwards adds a lot of re-ride value. I feel bad critiquing the ride's most unique feature with the voting aspect, but I really wish it was a preset forwards and backwards train, especially when this ride's queue line gets as long as it does. This is the best ride at Bobbejaanland without a doubt, and I'm interested to see if more Infinity coasters, or rides from other manufacturers for that matter, incorporate the same type of voting feature. So those are my thoughts on Fury at Bobbejaanland, the unique Gerstlauer creation. What are your thoughts on this coaster? Do you like the voting system? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.